Hey everyone, I'm Mr. Willis, and you will love economics. There are four major types of market structures in which products are sold: monopolies, oligopolies, monopolistically competitive markets, and perfectly competitive markets. We already covered perfectly competitive markets in our previous unit. In this video, we'll focus on imperfectly competitive markets and the firms that compete in them. Of these four, monopolies, oligopolies, and monopolistically competitive firms compete in imperfectly competitive industries. Provided are the characteristics that distinguish imperfectly competitive industries from other market structures. Remember that the number and size of the firms that compete in a market ultimately dictate a market structure. Unlike perfectly competitive markets, where many small firms compete, imperfectly competitive markets are dominated by a lesser number of larger firms. Because fewer firms compete in the industry, each firm has a larger market share of the total industry output. In essence, because each firm produces a sizable portion of the market output, imperfectly competitive firms are usually larger companies that have significant influence in the industry. Furthermore, these firms sell differentiated products, meaning the economic goods produced by one firm are not perfect substitutes for the economic goods produced by other firms in the market. Product differentiation will vary from market to market. Monopolies sell completely unique products, while oligopolies and monopolistic competitors sell goods that can be slightly differentiated from the competitors' products. This means that consumers must shop from a specific firm if they want or need a specific good, and each firm sells a product that is different from all the others. In reality, imperfectly competitive firms usually produce goods that can be customized or altered with slight variation, such as fast food, cereal, and automobiles. Now, don't get me wrong, these aren't the only goods that are produced and sold in imperfectly competitive industries. In fact, imperfect competition is the most common type of market structure in the real world, meaning if you buy it, there's a really good chance it comes from an imperfectly competitive firm. Imperfectly competitive firms are also price makers. A price-making firm has total control over the price at which they sell their goods in the market. With a smaller number of firms to choose from, consumers must buy goods from one of the few firms that dominate the imperfectly competitive industry. As a result, firms have the ability to sell their goods at the highest price that consumers are willing and able to pay. By no means does this mean that imperfectly competitive firms can charge any price they want. Product price is still set entirely by consumer demand. If a firm tries to charge a higher price than what buyers are willing and able to pay, consumers will simply refuse to pay it and choose to do business with one of the other companies that sells a substitute good at a lower price. And it's completely unnecessary to attempt to sell its goods for less, because selling at a lower price would simply put the firm at a competitive disadvantage. As a result, each firm in an imperfectly competitive industry is a price maker that would sell its output at the highest price that consumers are willing and able to pay, set entirely by consumer demand. Because imperfect competitors sell differentiated products, the use of non-price competition is a necessity in the industry. Non-price competition is a marketing strategy in which one firm tries to distinguish its products from competing products on the basis of unique attributes. Usually, firms who use non-price competition will utilize commercials, labeling, and other market strategies in order to promote the unique qualities of their product and why it is superior to their competitors. This could prove useful in increasing the firm's share of consumer demand by convincing buyers to choose their product over their competitors' goods, and thus give the firm a competitive advantage in revenue and sales. With differentiated products in imperfectly competitive markets, firms must tout the small differences in their products to distinguish their goods from their competitors in order to draw in more consumers and make greater profits. You see it all the time. TV commercials that compare Ford trucks to Chevy trucks, labeling that lists the unique ingredients of a detergent that make it the best at removing stains, the unique shape of a Coke bottle that makes it recognizable compared to Pepsi products. All of these are examples of non-price competition. Another important characteristic of imperfectly competitive firms is that they are inefficient in the long run. In more competitive markets, every single dollar of profit can make the difference between staying in the market or losing out to other firms and going out of business. However, imperfectly competitive industries lack the intense competition found in perfectly competitive markets. With fewer firms to compete with in the industry, imperfectly competitive firms don't feel the same pressure to produce at productively efficient levels. Imperfectly competitive industries also have high barriers to entry. Barriers to entry are obstacles that can make it difficult for new firms to join an industry and compete with existing firms. Imperfectly competitive firms use high barriers to entry to prevent new competitors from entering the market and enables them to maintain their dominant control in the industry. The four most common barriers to entry in imperfectly competitive markets include geographic location, government protection, the common use of an existing firm's product, and economies of scale. Geography can serve as a barrier to entry when a firm's geographic location allows them to control access to important factors of production. In this scenario, a firm's location gives them exclusive access to the resources necessary to produce an economic good, making it easier for them to produce output and driving down their production costs. New firms may find it difficult to compete in the industry because they'll face higher costs and struggle to acquire inputs. This kind of barrier to entry allowed a few firms to dominate the American oil industry in the late 1800s, as larger firms bought up oil-rich land and denied smaller firms access to new sources of petroleum. Geographic location can also lead to control over market demand, as a firm can monopolize a market by being the only firm in the area. When there's only one gas station within 50 miles of a stretch of highway, that gas station dominates the local fuel market because it's the only supplier of gasoline in that geographic location. Government protection can serve as a barrier to entry when patents and other government protections grant firms and entrepreneurs exclusive rights to manufacture a specific product. If a firm develops a new product from an original idea, they can apply for a government patent or ask for copyright protection. If the application is accepted, the firm and its product are legally protected from new firms that join the industry and try to copy their idea. By law, only the firm that holds the patent can produce the economic good. As a result, new firms that join the industry must come up with their own original idea and produce a substitute good that can compete with the patented good. This can lead to single firm markets and make it difficult for potential competitors to survive in the industry. Common use can also serve as a barrier to entry. If a firm's brand name or product has been in use for quite some time, it can acquire a reputation as a superior or reliable product. Once this reputation is established, it becomes difficult for new firms to enter the industry and compete with dominant firms because consumers will be unlikely to deviate from the brands that they've grown to trust over time. Why risk buying a new product from an unproven firm when you can buy a product you know gets the job done? Think of the over-the-counter medications that we buy to battle cold and flu. When we're desperate to relieve our symptoms, we turn to brands we can trust, like Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble, because they produce the medicines that we've trusted for years, like Dayquil and Tylenol. Imagine trying to convince customers to abandon these brands and try something new. Not likely to happen. Lastly, economies of scale can serve as a barrier to entry. Firms that dominate in perfectly competitive markets are usually larger in size, meaning they've accumulated capital and expanded their plant capacities. As such, they're experiencing economies of scale and reduced production costs through mass production techniques. Reduced costs and scaled output means that dominant firms are earning healthy economic profits in the industry. New firms that join the market will find it difficult to compete from the get-go because their plant capacities will be smaller and their costs will be much higher, ensuring that dominant firms hold an advantage in economic profits. Combine this disadvantage with any other potential barriers to entry, and new firms are going to struggle to overcome the control that dominant firms have in an imperfectly competitive market. And that's Imperfectly Competitive Firms. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting the red button below so you can receive alerts about new videos when they become available. If you enjoy the channel or find my videos useful, let me know by liking the video and feel free to leave a comment below. We have full video lectures on every topic in macro and microeconomics, as well as quick macro and micro-minute videos for cram sessions and quick reviews. If you'd like to learn more, you can click here for my video on graphing imperfect competitors, or you can click here for my video on comparing perfectly competitive and imperfectly competitive markets. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time on You Will Love Economics.